Welcome to this lesson. This is lesson 1.3 in the unit about advocacy. And this lesson is called Expressions of Power, and it is a follow-up to the two previous lessons that were about the theory of change and about implementing change. The importance of expressions of power is from the takeaways of the lesson, and it starts with the vocabulary of power. At times, when you understand and start from vocabulary, it is halfway to understanding the topic and the concept you have in discussion. We will look at a quick assessment of positions of power and influence, and we will seek to raise your awareness of the importance of partners, of partakers, and wide ownership by the different powers in an advocacy. We will take a bit of a technical view, and we start with vocabulary. You see on the slide there are 4 squares at the center, and they are basically the 4 phrases linked to the word power. Power over, power to, power with, power within. And before you embark on an advocacy campaign, you need to understand what kind of power you have, what kind of power you would like your advocacy to have. What power maybe your allies or your enemies have. It is about, like we said in the previous lesson, understanding your context and understanding the terrain. The power over is the power to affect the actions and thought of the powerless or the less powerful. The power of the strong over the weak, including the power to exclude others. And this is the power over. Then the power is the power to change, so the capacity to act as an agent of power, the capability to decide and actions and carry them out, the power to do things. Then the power with others, the synergy of collective joint action and social mobilization and alliance building. And then the power from within is within yourself, within your organization and within your community, which is basically what we call in old-fashioned terms personal self-confidence, a sense of self-dignity, and a self-awareness that enables agency. Once one has mastered the vocabulary of power, let us call it that way, one will look at forms of power. Now here we are a bit theoretical, but we will immediately after give you practical examples about how to apply these different parts of what we call the power cube. It is only called by the persons who designed this kind of approach a tentative approach. There is visible power, which means the contests over interests are assumed to be visible in public spaces, for example. The local council may be seen up to a certain extent as a visible power. It has the power to do things. Then the hidden power. And there are barriers that preclude the entry of certain actors and issues. Like, for example, hidden powers are lobbies, professional lobbies, journalists, those special groups where you need a special ticket or special profile to join. But they could make, although they do not decide things, they could be very effective partners and help you become a more powerful, let us stay on the vocabulary, more powerful ambassadors of change. Then there is the invisible power, which is that power, for example, the community. Although they do not decide things, they might not have the right to vote on an issue. The more you give public ownership to them, the more they are that invisible power, but it is there. That is why politicians go and knock on doors, because they have votes. But in a less concrete way, in the case of an advocacy, if your municipality, if your local council wishes to embark on something, feeling that the community is has the hidden partners and the invisible power behind it of the community, then that public support makes your local council more prone to have more successful advocacy campaigns and initiatives. This is what they call the power cube, if you give a second dimension to the 3 squares that we saw. And this is, you still work and think of the visible, hidden and invisible powers, but then it depends on if you are acting at a local level, national or global level. Because of course, advocacy campaigns, depending on the topic, depending on the impact and on the players behind it, it can have different effects at different levels. Then there are what they call spaces that make this power cube 3-dimensional. And you can see at the bottom there are those closed groups like bureaucrats, experts, And these are possible allies in your advocacy campaign that you need to knock on doors, use the right vocabulary, use maybe someone who knows the community well, knows how to communicate with that community, either to bring them on your side, or else, maybe because they are the people who decide, maybe to knock on their door effectively. Then there are certain spaces where they are called them invited spaces, where you are invited because of your profile. Sometimes you are invited because you yourself are known to be a good campaigner. Spaces claimed by less powerful actors are those called claimed or created spaces. And these are claimed by the less powerful actors from or against the power holders, or created by or more autonomously by them. Sometimes artists can be pigeonholed in this area, because an artist, especially for example a cartoonist, can be your ally. When the cartoonist starts to criticize power, for example, through a cartoon, then in that case, that is a claimed power. He's shifting from a cartoonist to journalism, to satire. So that is a claimed space. There's no specific space, but that cartoonist becomes a point of reference. Now all this sounds a lot of vocabulary and a lot of theory. So this is why I would like us to later look at the examples which will maybe give it more of a practical aspect. For example, the why thinking power in advocacy. Why do we think of power? So that you know where you stand. Are you part of a visible power? If you look at this slide here, you can see that there are the three elements of visible, hidden, and invisible powers. You can understand where you are as a local council. And keep in mind that if you are a local council, a local authority, you can be on a topic, on an advocacy subject or effort, you can be a visible power. Why? Because if you are acting local, you are bringing change at a local level, then in that case you are quite high on the pyramid. In another campaign that maybe wants to bring change at a national level, then you are lower down in the pyramid of power, because you can do things but not influence national policy. So this is part of what we said in the previous lesson, understanding the terrain, seeing where you are and who you are. And if you identify a possible ally in your campaign, you say, oh, this person is, or this group is a hidden power, or this is invisible power, or claimed space. Knowing where people stand, you also know what kind of partners you want, how desirable is that partner, etc. Let us take examples, because this is maybe the best way to give color to all these terminology. This is an example of a project that at the moment I'm involved in. It is called Future Planners. It is a project for youth. It engages present and future young architects, designers, sociologists, educationalists, and social media managers maybe. And the idea is that they hook up with a local council, and this local council would be thinking of or about to embark on an urban development project, and these youths, together with the council, will seek to advocate human-centered development of this urban project, and actually helping the council stage real and effective community consultation. This is an interesting project, but if you look at the players, there are the youths who are future players. So these would be maybe a hidden power. That's why we left the cube on the slide. Then there is the local council, that is, if it is within its power to decide on this project, then it is a visible power. Then there is the community. Then in the community there are the special interest groups, those who work with the disabled or for the interests of migrants. So these many players, once labeled correctly as hidden, visible powers, or the spaces, then one can start to understand how players can work together. This is an initiative that we saw that is starting in a local council about smoking-free beaches. This subject is a favorite of mine. That's why I chose it. Now, it is a local councillor who may be an individual and may be part of the invisible power. But as member of the local council, from what I know, this is not taken up by the council, but by a councillor. So this person is trying to be an advocate of change. This could be the start of an advocacy campaign that may be local, stays in Melliħa, or else may be lobbied so that this good example of good practice, maybe they get the community to say what they feel about it, smokers and not. Those who are smokers but maybe also are lobbied to say that, yeah, a beach is cleaner without cigarette butts. It is better to have a smoke-free space. So this is part. Imagine this person is trying to start to lobby, and who would be the allies? Who would be the visible, hidden and invisible powers that would be allies, etc. Let us review, and this would be a concluding note. We started with looking at the vocabulary of power. And this may be helpful when you understand the vocabulary of power. This is where we are trying to make the theory part of the lesson into a practical exercise. Is try to write a mission statement for your advocacy campaign. The vocabulary of power becomes very important to understand it, so you can write clearly what you want to achieve, what you can achieve, what your partners can achieve together. It is a mix, a mission statement for an advocacy campaign of the vocabulary of power, including visible, hidden and invisible power, and it may inspire the question, as we said before, between local councils being visible power in certain contexts, but due to small communities, in the context of a small country, may also be another kind of power. And we give you a very small task. We would like you to look back at the slide on the vocabulary of power. Then maybe you identify a topic of interest that could be the subject of an advocacy campaign, could be smoking, healthy eating, migration. And then try to write a mission statement using 4 sentences that include the 4 phrasal verbs of power. Power over, power to, power with, power within. And there you have a mini mission statement that we can discuss then in the forum after this lesson.